Welcome to another deep dive, and this time we're going into the Criterion Collection.
The Criterion Collection.
But with a little bit of a twist.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, okay.
Instead of just talking about these movies, we're going to be imagining what it would be like if Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel were locked in the Criterion closet.
Wow. Okay, I love this.
And arguing about the movies in the Criterion Collection. So we'll be talking about the movies, but we're going to be talking about them through the lens of Siskel and Ebert.
Okay.
So let's start. Let's go back to 1986.
Okay.
And imagine that Blue Velvet has just been released.
Okay.
And it's in the Criterion Collection.
All right.
And
so this is a movie that people either think is like the best movie ever or it's the worst movie ever.
Yeah, it's pretty polarizing.
Yeah.
And what's so polarizing about it is, it starts off seemingly innocent, this like idyllic town.
Right.
And then there's this like severed ear in a field.
Yeah.
And it's all downhill from there.
Totally. And it's David Lynch, so you kind of know you're in for something a little weird.
Yeah, he likes to blur the lines between, what's normal and what's
disturbing.
Disturbing, yeah. Like that scene where Kyle MacLachlan and Laura Dern decide to spy on Isabel Rossellini's character.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like harmless curiosity at first.
Yeah.
But then
It gets creepy.
Yeah.
Really creepy.
And of course, you can't forget Dennis Hopper is Frank Booth.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean,
just his voice. So terrifying.
Right.
Chilling.
Like one of the most memorable performances ever.
Yeah.
So how did our esteemed critics, Siskel and Ebert, react to all of this?
All right, well, let's start with Ebert because he was not a fan.
Really?
He found the film cruel, especially towards Isabella Rossellini,
Mm-hmm.
He just thought that Lynch was mixing like these really shocking scenes with this weird, almost campy humor. And it just didn't sit right with him.
Okay, so he's focused on the characters and how they're being portrayed. Maybe he's...
Yeah, he seemed really concerned with like the ethical treatment of the characters, even in this like fictional world.
Interesting.
He really felt like Lynch was exploiting Rossellini just for shock value.
Okay. But Siskel had the opposite view.
Totally opposite. He was like completely captivated by Blue Velvet.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He was praising the darkness, praising the suspense, even compared it to Hitchcock's Psycho.
Wow.
He loved it. He even said Lynch was like playing the audience like an instrument.
Oh, wow.
Building this like tension and then releasing it like a musical composition.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a really cool analogy, right?
Yeah, it's a really cool analogy, yeah. So they really had like opposing viewpoints.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But did they ever agree on anything?
Well, they had this really heated debate about Rossellini's character, right?
Right.
Ebert's arguing that her treatment was exploitative and Siskel saying, no, it's a legitimate artistic choice. But you know what I thought was so interesting about that? Their argument goes way beyond just whether they like the film or not, right? They were grappling with these like bigger questions about art and ethics and like the viewer's role and all of it.
That's really interesting.
So yeah, I mean, they might have disagreed on whether Blue Velvet was a good movie, but they both clearly saw it as a film that had something to say.
Yeah, I guess that's what makes listening to these two so interesting, right? Like,
oh yeah,
they're challenging us to think critically about the films.
Exactly. It's not just about thumbs up, thumbs down.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on from the darkness of Blue Velvet. And let's go to something completely different.
Right.
Let's go to 1985.
Okay.
And we're going to look at Spielberg's The Color Purple.
Okay, so this is a big departure for Spielberg. Really.
Huge. Yeah. He's known for like sci-fi. Blockbusters, exactly, yeah.
And now he's taking on this really human drama.
Yeah, it's about two sisters.
Yeah.
Facing abuse and hardship.
Yeah, a really tough story.
But it's also a story of resilience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, critics were blown away by this film. They were calling it one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah, some critics were even saying it saved like a disappointing holiday season.
Oh, wow. That's high praise.
And I mean, the performances, Whoopi Goldberg and
Oprah. This is Oprah's film debut.
Her film debut. I mean, incredible performances.
Yeah.
And that scene, where Celie is finally reunited with her sister.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just raw emotion.
It's hard not to cry during that scene.
Right. And even Siskel, he's the tough one, right?
Yeah, Mr. Tough Guy.
Admitted to shedding a tear during that scene.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So both critics were pretty moved by this one.
Oh, yeah. They were really moved by the film's honesty and emotional depth.
It's really amazing, I think, that Spielberg can make us believe in aliens 1 minute and then break our hearts with a story like this the next. It really speaks to his skill as a director.
Absolutely.
That he can handle such, like, weighty themes with such sensitivity.
Yeah, he can kind of do it all.
Yeah.
You know?
It's pretty impressive. So we've seen Spielberg tackle aliens. We've seen him tackle this deeply human drama.
Yeah.
What happens when a director takes on a subject that's already been explored by others? Like, is it even possible to bring something new to the table?
That's a good question.
Well, that's exactly what Kubrick did in 1987 with Full Metal Jacket, his take on the Vietnam War.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And that came out right after other Vietnam War movies, too.
Right, like hot on the heels of Platoon.
So did Kubrick bring anything new?
Yeah, that's what Ebert and Siskel debated.
Okay. So what's Full Metal Jacket about?
Well, it takes you from the intensity of boot camp to the streets of Hue during the Tet Offensive.
So very different halves.
It's almost like a film of two halves, yeah, but both visually stunning in typical Kubrick fashion.
Yeah, I mean, he's a master of visuals.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you know, that shift in tone, that's one of the things that makes the film so fascinating.
Oh, yeah, how so?
Well, the first half, with R. Lee Ermey's performance as the drill instructor,
oh my God,
is almost like a black comedy. So intense.
I mean, he's terrifying.
Yeah.
But he's also, like, really funny.
He's hilarious. I mean, everyone quotes him, "Get on my obstacle course."
Right, exactly.
But then the second half of the film, it just plunges you into this, like, horrific reality of urban warfare.
So it gets really dark.
It gets really, really dark.
And what about Matthew Modine's character, Joker?
Oh, yeah, Joker. Well, you know, he goes through this whole transformation, right?
Yeah, he goes from being this naive recruit to, like, a jaded war correspondent.
Yeah, you see the war really changing him.
Yeah.
And I think his transformation, it highlights this gap between the official narrative of the war, you know, what the government's saying, and then, like, the brutal reality that the soldiers are actually facing on the ground.
So it's like propaganda versus truth.
Exactly, yeah. He starts out idealistic, but by the end, he's seen too much, you know?
So what did Ebert and Siskel think of all this? Did they think Kubrick brought something new?
Well, Ebert wasn't so impressed. He thought the film lacked originality, especially coming after films like Platoon.
So he was kind of tired of the Vietnam War movies?
Maybe, yeah. He felt like Full Metal Jacket was just retreading familiar territory, you know? And he actually found some of the scenes kind of cliched.
Really? Like which ones?
Well, he particularly didn't like the climactic firefight, that big battle at the end.
He thought that was cliched.
He did, yeah. He thought it was a tired trope. But Siskel, on the other hand, he was blown away.
Really? So another difference of opinion?
Totally. He thought the film was visually powerful, especially those urban combat scenes. He loved how Kubrick was able to convey the chaos and the terror of war.
So it sounds like Ebert was looking for something new, something that would challenge the genre.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. He wanted a fresh perspective.
But Siskel was fine with the familiar.
Yeah, he was more focused on Kubrick's mastery of filmmaking, even if the story felt familiar. He could appreciate how Kubrick elevated those familiar elements, you know?
Right.
So their biggest disagreement was actually over a specific scene, the one involving the sniper attack.
Oh, okay.
Ebert just dismissed it as, you know, another tired trope. But Siskel found it really emotionally impactful. And this difference in opinion, I think it really highlights their contrasting views on originality, you know?
Yeah.
Ebert prioritized novelty, like he wanted something he hadn't seen before.
Right.
But Siskel valued how a director could elevate those familiar elements, even if they weren't brand new.
It's fascinating how two people can watch the same film and come away with such different interpretations.
It is. It's a reminder that there's no right or wrong way to watch a film.
Exactly.
It's all about, like, what you bring to it and what you take away from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about a dark thriller, a human drama, a war epic.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, let's jump to 1988 and Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ.
Ooh, okay.
This one sparked a lot of controversy.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, even before it was released, people were protesting outside theaters.
Wow. And why was that?
Well, because it explored the human side of Jesus.
Okay. Interesting.
His doubts, his struggles, his temptations. It's a far cry from the more traditional depictions we're used to seeing.
Right.
Scorsese wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo, you know? He really wanted to dive into the complexities of faith.
And how was Willem Dafoe as Jesus?
Oh, he was haunting. He really embodied that inner turmoil, you know, that struggle of being both divine and human.
It's a really tough concept to grasp.
Yeah, it's a paradox.
Yeah.
And the film really doesn't shy away from that. Think about that scene where Jesus defends Mary Magdalene at the wedding.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He's challenging those hypocrites who are judging her, you know? And it's such a powerful reminder of his message of compassion and forgiveness.
Right.
But it also humanizes him in a way that, you know, I think some people found really controversial.
Right, right. So what about that scene where Jesus confronts the money changers in the temple?
Oh, my God. Yeah, that scene is intense.
Right.
You can just feel his anger.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that he wasn't just this passive figure, but someone who, you know, who felt deeply and fought for what he believed in. It's a very human portrayal of Jesus.
Okay, so this film definitely pushed boundaries.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what's really interesting?
Fine.
Both Ebert and Siskel, despite their differences, were deeply moved by this film.
Interesting.
They both called it a profound spiritual experience.
Wow, that's really something. So what do you think made this film so powerful?
Well, I think it's the fact that it resonated with two critics from such different backgrounds. It really transcended their usual disagreements. And it touched on this, like, universal search for meaning and faith, you know? And I think that's something we all grapple with, whether we're religious or not.
What did Ebert and Siskel have to say specifically? What really struck them?
Well, Ebert talked about grappling with that duality of Jesus as both God and man. And Siskel, he praised the film's boldness in reinterpreting the story for a new generation.
Wow, so they both saw something really special in this film.
Oh, yeah. They were both kind of in awe of it, honestly.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's not often that they agree so wholeheartedly, but this film really did something to them.
And what about the controversy? Did they address that at all?
They did. They were actually baffled by it.
Really?
Yeah, they argued that the film was a very respectful and thoughtful exploration of faith.
Huh. Interesting.
Siskel even went so far as to call it a special good movie, which...
Wow, high praise.
Yeah, high praise from Siskel. So, you know, I think their defense of the film really speaks volumes about their belief in the power of art, right? To challenge us and to provoke us.
Right. They understood that sometimes the most meaningful art is the art that pushes boundaries.
Exactly. It's the art that forces us to confront our own beliefs and assumptions.
Absolutely. So we've journeyed through 4 really different films from the Criterion Collection, each sparking its own unique debate between Siskel and Ebert.
It's been quite a ride.
It has, yeah. What have we learned from eavesdropping on their conversations?
Well, I think it really highlights the power of passionate and insightful criticism.
Yeah.
You know, Siskel and Ebert, they didn't just tell us whether they liked or disliked a film.
Right.
They delved into the why, they explored the themes, the techniques, the cultural impact.
Right. They went deeper.
They challenged each other, and in turn, they challenged us to think critically about the films we watch.
And it's a good reminder that there's no one right way to interpret art.
Exactly. What matters is the conversation, the engagement with the ideas and emotions that the film evokes.
So as we step out of the Criterion closet and back into the real world,
Back to reality.
I want you to consider something.
Okay.
Imagine your favorite film, the one that speaks to you on the deepest level, landing in the Criterion Collection.
Ooh, interesting.
What do you think Siskel and Ebert would have to say about it? Would they love it? Would they hate it? Would they agree with you?
That's a really good question.
And that's the beauty of film.
Yeah.
It's subjective.
Totally subjective.
There's no right or wrong answer.
It's just different perspectives.
And hopefully some passionate discussions.
Exactly. Just like the ones we've been having today.
Exactly. Well, thanks for joining us on this journey through the Criterion Collection with Siskel and Ebert.
Yeah, thanks for listening. And don't forget to let us know what you think Siskel and Ebert would say about your favorite films.